Hello guys, so this is a continuation of the tutorial that we saw earlier for to deploy the Bedrock model using AWS Lambda, and where we will be just creating the custom Lambda layer for the dependencies, and then we just deployed a simple application using LLM and also LangChain, and yeah, we finally tested the model. So if you haven't checked out the video, please go to this link above here and just watch it once before watching this tutorial, because it's a continuation of the one that we have did earlier. So in this tutorial, we'll be saying how to deploy RAG-based application, Retrieval-Augmented Generation-based application using OpenAI and LangChain. We will be deploying this application in AWS Lambda, and then we will be testing it. And also we will create a custom layer for all the external dependencies. Like in our previous tutorial, we just deployed the Lambda function, I mean a simple LLM application using Lambda, by just creating the Lambda layer for the dependencies, and we deployed and we ran the code. But what we're gonna do here is we're gonna build a RAG-based application. Most normally, if you see like RAG-based application need a lot of dependencies. Like we need LangChain and then vector DB to be imported, and then we need a embedding model, and then we need LLM. So to import all these dependencies, what we have to do is we will be creating a Docker image. Okay, we will use our code. I mean the RAG, and then we will be construct our requirement.txt, and we will also do a Docker image build, and once we build, push it to the ECR registry in AWS, and then we will be creating Lambda function using this container image in the AWS. So this is the simple workflow that we're gonna walk through today. So let's go into the implementation. So first of all, I really would like to just give you an idea of whatever RAG code will do. So first of all, we have to import all the libraries that we need, okay, for to run our RAG. So if you are like already familiar with in developing like RAG based application, this code is like so simple for you, okay. We have used like a basic RAG here, and once it's done, we have to import the OpenAI key from the environmental variable. So here I will show you like how you can just configure your variable directly in the Lambda, maybe in later stage, okay. And then what you have to do is load function. So this function is responsible for loading, chunking, and indexing the content of a specific blog post. Like here, we will be using a blog post from the github.io. Okay, and then we will be using the web-based loader from the LangChain library to load the content from the specific URL. And then this content is processed using beautiful soup to extract like specific element like post content, and then title, and then headers, and then we will be splitting this into a chunk using recursive text splitter. Okay, and these chunks are then like indexed using chroma vector store with embeddings generated by the OpenAI. And then finally retriever is created from the vector store, and which can which can be used to like retrieve your relevant I mean the content or chunks of the blocks based on the user query. So next we have a simple function which is format doc. So what this function does is it takes a list of documents and concatenates their content into a single string, and then separated by two new lines character. So this is likely used to like format the retrieved documents into a more readable or like usable format for further processing. So this is a simple pre-processing step that we do in our code. And the next function is get response. Okay, so this function is the core of our script. So where it takes like a query and uses the load data function to retrieve the relevant snippet of the blocks, and then format these snippets, and then uses the LangChain pipeline to generate the response. Okay, and the pipeline like includes a prompt from the LangChain hub here. So this is the classical like prompt that we use for the RAG based application. Okay, so and then we have a chat model as well, so which is OpenAI like GPT 3.5. So the response is generated by like invoking this pipeline, with our user query. Okay, so the next one is the important entry function for the Lambda, which is Lambda handler. Okay, and then it extracts a query from the event object passed to the Lambda function, if you see here. And then what it do is it will call the get response function to generate a response. Okay, and then it will return the response in a suitable like HTTP response format. Okay, so this is so simple. I mean the implementation code for the RAG. Okay, we're going to deploy this code in our Lambda function. Okay, so for that we have to like collect all the requirements that we need to run this script. Okay, for example, we need LangChain community and then LangChain hub as well, and then OpenAI, ChromaDB, and we have listed all the requirements. Okay, so if you are developing in a different way, like for example, if you use like files instead of ChromaDB, just try to adjust your requirement.txt as per your need. Okay, so everything is done. Let me go into the Docker file that we're gonna build. Okay, so here is the Docker file. Okay, so creating a Docker container for an AWS Lambda function using like Python 3.1 as here in the first line. So this involves like using an AWS base image and installing necessary tools, copying your our function and then dependencies, and also setting the command to execute our function. Okay, so the Docker file starts by specifying the AWS base image for Python 3.12, and which is optimized for like AWS Lambda and include Python 3.12 and then necessary runtime interface client. And also it then updates and install the C++ compiler and other tools required for building the dependencies. And then we have a requirement.txt file which lists the Python packages in our function, depends on is copied into the container and then installed using pip. And then our Lambda function code is then copied into the container, made like here if you see, and made executable, and then the default command is set to our function handler. And here, so this setup which allows you to like package your Python Lambda function and its dependencies into your Docker container. Okay, a Docker file, what we have to do is we have to build a Docker image. Okay, and then we have to push this Docker image to the ECR repository for to just use the container image deployment with the Lambda. Okay, for that, first of all, what we have to do is we have to install AWS CLI and Docker on your machine. Okay, if it doesn't if you doesn't have Docker and AWS CLI, just let me go here. From here you can install Docker on your machine, and for AWS CLI, so go here, and based on your operating system you can install the AWS CLI on your machine. Okay, if you like really want to know how to like install AWS CLI on your local machine and then how to configure it with your access token, yeah, let me know in the comment section below please, and I will try to do a video on it. Okay, so let me go back to our VS Code terminal. So we have our Docker file which is ready. Now what we're gonna do is we will be building an image with this Docker file. Okay, so for that we will be using Docker CLI to build our image, and also we should use the proper the architecture for Lambda, like the one that we will use in the Lambda function. Okay, so I will try to use this command. So our Docker image name is like test Lambda image. Okay, with the tag latest. Okay, so we're gonna build it with the platform that's here. So let me run this command. So it just started the building process. It will take like couple of minutes. Let's wait. So now it's done. Let's test the image that we have created earlier. Let's export it in the Docker desktop. So it's here. We go into the Docker. In the files, you will see all the files that we have used for the deployment. Okay. Like push our Docker image that we built here to the AWS ECR. Okay. So before we start, we need a AWS CLI. As I told you, like we have to configure it, and once it's done, what you have to do is we have to log into AWS. Okay. So use this command to like log into your AWS using your your account number plus your region. Let me log in. So login succeed. We have to create the repository in ECR. For that, we have to execute this command, where will be create repository with repository name that will be like test lambda image, and we have to mention the region. Okay, let me execute it to create the ECR image. Let me go into the AWS ECR to just show you the repository which is created successfully, which is this one. Okay. So once we have created the repository successfully, we have to like tag our Docker image and then we have to push it. Okay. So before like pushing, we have to tag our image with the ECR repository URI. Okay. For that, we have to execute this command, and then we will be pushing this image to the test lambda image. Okay. Let's run it. So once it's done, we have to push the Docker image. So use the Docker push command to like push your Docker image to the ECR repository. For that, we will be using this command. So Docker push, like simply you can just specify the ECR repository URI. Let me run it. So it just started to push the Docker image to the repository that we have created. Now we can verify it just have got pushed properly. So we can use describe repository with the repository name and region. Let's run it. So here you can see all the details of the repository. Okay. So we need the repository URI for to like create our Lambda function now. So let me go into the test Lambda image that we have created. Okay. With the latest tag, as you see, we can see all the information regarding this image. So and then what you have to do is we have to go into Lambda to create the Lambda function using this container image. For that, let me go create function. So instead of like creating it from scratch, what I have to select is we have to select container image. And let me name the function test rag, for example. And then we have to enter the ECR URI. Whether you can just copy paste it from here, okay, or otherwise you can also just browse the image and just try to refresh it to get the all the image which is pushed recently. So in our case, it's like it's lambda image. Okay. So if you see, like, it have been like pushed 2 minutes ago. We take latest one, select image, and let me keep all other as default and create function. Good. So now we have created our function. Okay. So before we can test our function, we have to configure few things. As I mentioned earlier, for this RAG application, we will be using OpenAI. Okay. So we have to add OpenAI API key. Okay. So it's done successfully now. Let me go to configuration. For to just create environmental variable in your Lambda function, you should go here, environmental variable. So edit. Let me add a variable. So key name would be like in our case open API key and enter your API key. And save. Now we have created the environment variable and saved it. We have to create an event, okay, to test our code. So let me create a test event, for example. So we have to edit our event JSON as well. For that, we have to use the question. Okay, so if you see here, we will be from the event. We are getting the question. Okay, so yeah. So our simple question will be like, what are the most common choices of like in an algorithm for first maximum in a product search? Okay, so I just prepared this question based on the document that we have provided to the RAG. For example, let me copy this and let's explore this. So it just covered up the topic autonomous agent using LLM. So we have a lot of documents. So I just ask the question from here. So let's see how it works. Okay. Let me save the event and try to test it. Okay. So the timeout is set to like 3 seconds. Uh, if you face such errors, what you have to do is you have to go to configuration, and if you see here timeout, have to adjust it. Okay. So when we are working with RAG based application, it took like a lot of time to run behind. It took like maximum time. Okay, because it should take the document and it should like do the embedding, and then it will search with LLM. And also memory we can set to 512. Let's say the function. So now we can do a test once it's done. Okay, so it's done. Let's test now. So it's done now. Let's see the output. As we have written the response in HTTP response format, so we got like 200. So yeah, it just answered the question from the document. For example, it included face, scan, LSH, NI. Let's check the document as it just provided the same thing. So LSH, NI, and then HSN, and then face, scan. Yeah. So this is how like we can deploy our RAG based application in the Lambda function. Okay. I hope like this tutorial is helpful for your deployment purpose, and let me know all your questions in the comment section. I will for sure I will answer you. So that's it for today. So see you all in our next session. Thanks for watching. I think it was helpful for you to deploy your own RAG based application with Lambda. So you are familiarized with how to create the Lambda layer and how you can prepare your zip for to just create your ARN in AWS Lambda, and also how to deploy a LLM based, I mean RAG based application in Lambda. So that's it for today. Thanks for watching, and do not hesitate to add your comment in the comment section below.